Welcome to the Wild and Curious podcast, a show that's part travel,
part feminism,
and completely inspired by extraordinary women worldwide. I'm Theresa Christine.
And I'm Suzanne Schmedding.
When I was doing an at-home bar class, I actually used 2 bottles of wine as weights. Because I don't have any weights. I've got the bands and I've got the ball and a mat and everything.
But you have 2 bottles of wine.
I got 2 bottles of wine. As I've gotten older, I've noticed my respect for wine has increased exponentially. I've become that person.
Oh, no, 100%. I mean, I used to think that the $3 bottles that I would buy in Bakersfield, CA were pretty nice. And I couldn't understand why I had headaches all through my 20s.
Do you remember when $2 Chuck, it increased, I think, to $2.50?
Oh, the horror.
And everyone they couldn't wrap their heads around it. And I was like, guys, it's terrible wine. Just get something else.
Sorry, Charles.
And it's official now. Trader Joe's is never going to sponsor this show. It's okay. It's okay. But yes, I love wine.
Yes.
You love wine.
I do love wine.
It only makes sense that we want to talk to people who make wine.
Today, we are talking with Pauline Lapierre, who is the owner, operator, and winemaker at our family's winery, Chateau Haut Rian. 2 years ago, she produced her own plot of land, Les Vignes de Coulous, and last year produced her first organic wine.
So actually, I grew up in a winery in Rions, so it's a 30 minutes drive from Bordeaux, southwest of France. It's when I was 15 that I left home. Actually, I was a very good student, so I was strongly encouraged to study, and so I went to Paris, entered a preparatory school, which is a very French program and very intensive, and it's a lot of work and a lot of competition between students. I did that for 2 years and managed to enter what is known in France as the best business school. And I studied there finance. But after a while, actually, when I started to wonder what I really wanted to do and what job I wanted to start, I realized that it was not exactly. I mean, I was very happy and I had a lot of friends, and I was happy in my life, but I was not really interested or deeply interested in what I was doing. So I worked. I worked for 2 years for Danone, which is a dairy and water brand, and I was based in Singapore. I had great managers and a great team, but still I was missing a lot the winery and the wine making. And so after a while, I decided to go back to school, and I took a degree in enology.
That is so brave and exciting to leave this kind of life you've had and go back and start over and become this winemaker. You're not actually in what we think of as Bordeaux. You're in Cadillac, Côtes de Bordeaux.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about how this spot is unique or different from what most people think of when they think of traditional Bordeaux and Bordeaux wine?
I think in Cadillac, Côtes de Bordeaux, we are very lucky to have first beautiful terroirs. So it's actually mainly hills facing the river. So it's just beautiful landscapes on which you have these vineyards planted with these nice slopes with southeast exposure. So first it's beautiful, and then each hill is a bit different in terms of soil. So in Cadillac, Côtes de Bordeaux as a whole, we have really diversity of terroir and of soils which explains that we grow white grapes, red grapes, we make sweet wines, sweet white wines, dry white wines, red wines, oaked wines or not. So it's and the second very important thing to me is that it's mostly family-owned vineyards, and it's a vineyard that which is a bit, at least nowadays, less known that like very famous Grand Cru from the Médoc or Saint-Émilion. So it's more like a family-owned type of businesses, and where we are a lot of actually young winemakers to take over from their parents. So in a way, I like this region as well because it's kind of innovative. I mean, we make wine, we love wine, but it's we have a link to wine which is a bit less traditional, I would say, than in some like bigger, very well-known regions of Bordeaux.
For this like younger generation, I mean, what do you feel that they're tackling and taking on that is so exciting for you?
To me, I mean, I feel very responsible for the vineyard part of the job. When I think of my job, I take care of the vineyard. It's only estate grown fruits. Then I make the wine and then I sell it. And when my parents created the vineyard 30 years ago, they at that time in the region, wines were, I would say, quite bad, which is, but so it's all this these times in the 70s, 80s, people were very were thinking that science was going to improve everything. There was a big trust into like science, progress. And so at that time, my parents had a lot of work to make in the cellar. So they focused on how to make a good wine out of grapes. At that time, the knowledge and around the wine was not so deep. So it was more about knowing your chemistry, understanding what a fermentation is, managing well your fermentation. And I would say today, this is really well managed. I mean, everyone knows, any winemaker knows how to make a fermentation happen. And usually it's happening very well and safely. Our generation, the young generation, is going back to the vineyard. And this is really, I think, meaningful for us. During our studies, we had some lessons on ecology, environment, and we all care about our environment. And so we are spending a bit less time in the cellar, maybe trying less to control everything in the cellar, but going back to really the beginning of the work, of the job, which is having healthy grapes in a healthy environment without using crazy chemicals. And this is really, I think, our task today for my generation.
And when we met, I was under the impression that you were probably in like a boys' club sort of thing. Like I thought winemaking was male dominated, and it sounds like that's not actually the case. Why is that?
No, I would say that I'm 31, and for my generation, like it's mostly women taking over their parents' vineyard around me. I think having family-owned business is key in the region, because then when you are like a mother or a father and you want you are thinking to retire and you are looking for someone to take over, if any of your child is eager to do it, as a mom or as a dad, you're happy, I think. At least for me, this is how I have one brother who was not interested at all in the vineyard. And when I said that I wanted to come back, my parents were very happy. And now that I'm managing the vineyard, when I'm recruiting women as well as men, of course, but at least half. And so the fact that we have so many family-owned businesses around here, for me was a big door open to daughters and women who wanted to work in that field. And the second thing is that we miss people. Nowadays, being a winemaker is as well being a farmer. And less and less young people are interested in being a farmer. So when anyone, woman or man, wants to do it and is fond of it, he is welcomed or she is welcomed.
Oh, that's really wonderful. I mean, it's, equality born out of necessity and family rights, but I think that's so incredible what you're doing. And speaking of family produced land and owned land, you are managing your parents' winery and you're the owner operator there, but you also just bought some land and produced your first organic wine.
Yes. So as I said before, for me, organic farming and farming is very important to me. And so my parent structure is 80 hectares vineyard. So it's quite a medium-sized to big structure. And we have existing customers, existing wines. So I'm changing quite a lot of things, but I have to go as well cautiously and smoothly. So I wanted, I had the opportunity, I had a neighbor, actually a woman who was in her 50s, who wanted to retire, and she had a plot in my village, and she was farming it organically. She had been farming it organically for the past 10 years. And she asked me if I wanted to take over. And for me, it was a very nice opportunity because it was a small kind of plot. And I saw it as the opportunity to do my own thing and to train on organic farming, which is quite technical. So I bought the land 2 years ago now, and did my first vintage in 2018, and it was incredible as well because it's great to take over from your family, but you still have the pressure to do at least as well as they did, and
yeah, of course.
you can't. You have a line to follow and still a tradition to respect. Whereas when you start your own little thing and nobody cares about it, it's great because you can you can do whatever you want.
No, I love that. I mean, I love that you're kind of stepping away and producing this organic wine.
Yeah, that you get to work with your family still and have that, but then you're also going your own route and kind of forging into the future, which is really great.
Yes. I find it nice as well. It's a good escape.
When you think about winemaking in your region, what do you kind of hope or see for the future?
I would say that I really believe in family-owned business and in estate-grown fruits. So we are in a region where the wines produced are so Cadillac, Côtes de Bordeaux. They are, let's say, affordable and good quality wines. I would say that what I really believe in is knowing the people behind the bottle. And in our region, we are all like medium-sized estates where when you knock on the door, the guy who makes the wine would open the door and would be able to explain what he's doing and would be living on the farm. So he would as well know very well his neighbors. And I really value that because at a time where we are very concerned about environment, if you, for example, I live on the vineyard and I have plots all around my house. So I'm the first one concerned about the chemicals I put in my vineyard. And I'm the first one to have to face that. So I don't know if I explain it clearly, but I like the fact that we grow our vines, we live on the spot, we work with local people. Everything, this family-owned structure to me makes sense in general, because when you work with local people that you meet at school, when you live on the estate and not 100 kilometers away, you are much more concerned about the way you work and what is at the end in the bottle. So I think it's a model that is as well well perceived by people drinking wine nowadays, because they want to know how the wine was made, who made it, what we used and what we put in the wine. For me, it's I see it as the guarantee that things are done properly and responsibly.
I wish that right now we're recording this at 8:50 in the morning.
Yeah.
I wish it were an appropriate time to drink wine here in the United States. However, it is an appropriate time to drink wine in France.
Yes. And
so
also,
we could.
You could, but I think you are only limited by your imagination. If you want to drink wine at 8:50 a.m., I will not judge you that much.
I loved talking with Pauline because there is so much tradition that goes into winemaking, and even just this idea of wine almost that doesn't feel accessible.
Yeah, no, I think we have this sort of idea that it's this very sophisticated, removed sort of thing because it's very old. But I loved the thing she said where she's like, wine wasn't always good.
Yeah, winemaking, I mean, it started thousands of years ago, like 8,000 BC. And then particularly in Bordeaux, I believe it was like 2,000 years ago.
Right.
And, I'm guessing 2,000 years ago, the wine did not taste awesome.
Wine 8,000 years ago was probably made in a toilet.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It was like prison wine for sure.
So gross.
But, Pauline is a really great example of someone. She's got the family winery that she works with, that she respects, that she loves. Yeah. But then she's also doing her own thing.
Oh, I know. I love that. Like this idea of, she wants to be involved with her family and her community, but she's also super interested in creating something of her own that has, or that offers a lot of freedom and innovation. I think that's so great.
If you would like to follow Pauline on Instagram, you can find her at Haut Rian. That's HAUTRIAN.
And you can purchase her wine from Chateau Haut Rian and Les Vignes de Coulous online or, in France.
You've been listening to the Wild and Curious podcast, hosted by me, Theresa Christine.
And me, Suzanne Schmedding. If you've enjoyed this episode, there's more where this came from. Subscribe to the Wild and Curious podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. You can also follow along with our adventures on Instagram. Our handle is @_the Wild and Curious _, and we will also put that in the show notes for you.
We are always looking for extraordinary women to talk to you on our show. If you have someone in mind, or you are that someone, go to thewildandcurious.com to let us know.